Hello and welcome to another episode of Speculative Speculations. I'm Varsha,
I'm Jared.
Then I'm Chris.
and I started the fist thing, didn't I? And this is a series where we talk about speculative stories in all their forms. Today, we are going to continue on with the Inhibitor trilogy. I believe that's what it's called, by Alastair Reynolds, by starting the third book in the series, or I think the third book in the trilogy for this part of the Revelation Space Universe, which Jared and Chris are holding up, and I am not. It's called Absolution Gap, and we are talking about up to chapter 7 today. Next week's schedule will be for up to the end of chapter 16. Short story for today from the Big Book of Science Fiction, as always, is The Lake Was Full of Artificial Things by Karen Joy Fowler. And short story for next week is going to be The Unmistakable Smell of Wood Violets by Angelica Gorodischer. I hope I'm saying that right. But so that's everything we have to look forward to next week. When we finish Absolution Gap, we will start Ender's Game, the book, maybe the series. That's all. So, with all that said, what did we think of the first 7 chapters of Absolution? Yep. Lots of setup so far, I think. And Clavaine's having an emo moment.
It's very late in his life to be having an emo moment, like I have to say. Imagine, on one hand, the guy's dying. He hasn't got long left. And on the other hand, yeah.
Yeah. This is sad. He's grieving.
Yeah, he should be.
He's allowed.
It's all right. It's all right. He needs that.
Yeah.
It's good.
So
yeah,
what
I like how the
Go ahead, sorry.
I like how the prologue, talks about the how the sea remembers things, and I really like that, and I wanted more than that. I wanted more of that, and we didn't get it. So I'm hoping we get it later. But because I really like the prologue, I like thinking about that part that the sea remembers and what that means. As far as the what are they called, the aliens there. Jugglers, yeah, there we go. As far as they're concerned, and what all that means, but in spectacular Reynolds fashion, he gets into something else completely, and we move ahead 30 years and get introduced to new characters.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine. It's absolutely fine. I mean, I think it's sort of hit in the head a little bit there, Jared, insofar as there's very little links these books together. Everything that sort of goes from one book to the next is sort of like tenuous. I think more like they have Scorpio and they have Clavain, but they don't seem to be the same characters as we talked about this obviously with Redemption Arc as well, in terms of the difference in Curie and stuff. They don't really seem to be the same archetypes. And I have to admit, it took me to nearly the end of our little read through to work out that the other storyline was 50 years before this one. That they weren't happening concurrently, even though there were ultras and that kind of stuff. So it does sort of beg the question as to why, obviously, but also then to the point of, right, what does this mean? Because obviously we're sort of propelled towards the end of this book with the idea that there's impending doom, and that the inhibitors are going to destroy all life on Earth, and yet we have this dual timeline of what we think of as the modern day, and then something 50 years earlier, which seems to be from about the time that they decided to go to this new planet, and not really an awful lot about, or that they found an awful lot about the fact that this planet may have been inhabited before with Galliana and stuff. Isn't that what her name is, Galliana? Yeah, that she was there beforehand. Like, if they've been here for 50 years and they've not progressed that mystery any further, like, I'm a bit frustrated by the science of that. Now, I'm assuming actually that the exploration of the other crew 50 years beforehand is actually something to do in Tide for this, because obviously they're using this Haldera Hella naming convention that they've just plucked from nowhere. And yet, the idea, as has happened before, that these two stories will converge at some stage, and we'll get something. But at the moment, they're very disparate. They're very kind of samey ideas. In fact, I want to pose this to both of you. Do you not think that the other storyline is exactly the same storyline as we had with Skade and Clavane? You know, you have the Morwenna, you have and the other two guys, the guy that's trying to oust the other guys. So there's a competition in the Ultras from here before, one trying to get rid of the other one. It's pretty much the same as Clavane, Skade, and Galliana beforehand from Redemption Arc. To me, it's nearly identical of a story, and I'm a bit like, oh man, get a new part of the story.
Interesting. Yeah, I think there might be some, so to speak, recycling of character dynamics, but I kind of like the plot, or at least where that story is going. I think, well, not per se, but there is one particular thing that has me hooked, that I'd keep reading several chapters for. Um, and if I'm being honest, the narrative of that and the reveal of it, I could have done to have it done a different way, because I feel like the lead up was boring to an extraordinary reveal that this gas giant planet keeps disappearing every few hours or weeks or so, it seems like, because one machine detected it and then another spaceship detected it too. And and I low-key love this aspect of the machines being afraid of the humans dismissing their diagnosis, so they just keep it to themselves and hide it away so no human has seen it yet. but so that thread for me is really interesting overall. The characters, once again, for me, I think are just not working there. So it's it's usually the other way around for me in most stories, right? You latch onto the characters and the story sort of is a background for everything they do. I feel like with Reynolds, I've just got to get resigned to having it be the other way around. The background is the thing I'm here for. The character just like helping express that. So I don't care too much for the queen. What's her name? I don't know why I have the word Jamaica in my mind for some reason with the queen.
Jamina.
Jamina.
Yeah.
Right. So the queen, who sounds interesting. I guess tech-wise, I'd like more of an exploration for her. And our guy Quaish, who apparently founded a religion while he was exploring this planet. And his religion seems to be tied to Christianity in some form, and he's got like this virus that prevents him from committing heresies. So once again, there's a lot of cool tech, and unlike with the Skade prologue that we got in Redemption Arc, where like the details of the tech bogged me down, I think this one was fairly interesting, except for the part where we like got a blow by blow of how the machines operate, like the algorithms that were broken down as the machine consciousnesses. I didn't really enjoy that. It bored me a little bit, but the gas Jared agrees. The gas giant stuff, I really like to know what's going on there. And I guess the larger question is how this all ties to the inhibitors, because that's kind of, given that this is sort of like a closed trilogy, I think, isn't that kind of the end goal of trying to save ourselves from the inhibitors for this book?
I know. Well, it's like he's going to have to converge these storylines first before we can get a resolution to the inhibitors, because, like Chris said, it's 50 years earlier that these other characters are participating in, which I think made it more difficult to get into these characters, because I was just like, no, I want to get back to the story where the inhibitors are coming, because that's what's sucked us in the last book, was this overall threat, and then we're thrust back in time, and so I could not get into them one bit. I really had a hard time getting into these guys and caring about what they were doing. And so when we had the scenes on the planet with Clavane and Scorpio, and them trying to convince him to, get ready, do something, whatever it was he was doing. Those to me were very interesting, and I really got into those chapters because, would you say Clavane was in his something mode, um, and but I can see that happening to somebody who's been through his situation, and so I was kind of like, okay, yeah, I can see that. I can see that being there that long would bring that type of character change and that I thought that was pretty cool, and I thought that was, and then you have to have the event to bring the character out of that change. And I think I was like, okay, this is going somewhere. And then when he left those, it was hard to get into the other parts of the story. I'm hoping that when the ever convergence does happen, it'll make up for that and be better. But
yeah. I mean, I don't know that there's a great deal more to say about the structure of this, because I think it does mirror redemption arc in that way, insofar as, like, we didn't know Clavane, we didn't know Skade, we didn't know that at the start of that book either, and it sort of felt like a departure from kind of what we felt was a lot of groundwork in Revelation Space. And same things happen here. It seems like he's discarding an awful lot of this kind of momentum that he would have built up at the end of the book to kind of say, right, we're going to start again, and we're going to reset the idea, and parts of it and design it. I sort of like it, because the Ultras as a group, we don't really know an awful lot about. Like, we just know about Volyova and the crew that she was with, and they seemed to be a bit kind of an outlier within the Ultras, insofar as, like, she had very altruistic goals, and she had very different goals from what this kind of conquering, kind of weaponized kind of version of the Ultras that seemed to be about. And yet we have another guy here that's been coming in. He's been threatened with. You got the threat of him gonna be basically killed because he wasn't pulling his weight. But he's also altruistic in his own ways, in this kind of love of Morwenna and the protection of her that doesn't really seem to fit with the Ultras. So, I mean, I'm interested to see actually how the Ultras develop in terms of their storyline goes. Do we just stick with Quaish and Morwenna, or does it move to the other people that were kind of in the background? Because it does feel like there's a threat from that end, and I think a threat in the early part of this book could kind of carry us through. And then obviously we have all of the other threats. So with Curry that's went away, we have is Volyova dead? Volyova's dead.
I'm trying to remember. I think
that feels like something I should know.
Yeah,
because it was such a strong part. And we obviously have Sylvester as well, and this idea of Sylvester being in this sort of ether in Hades as well. And again, I just hope to God this isn't going to be a last 100. There's this book's long enough to kind of start to kind of enrich us a little bit with this world that's been built, which has got loads of cool stuff. Like you said, that last line of the gas giant just disappearing felt like, oh, right, now this is going to mean something, and yet it's sort of just loosely tinkled about in the background. It's like one of those things, that if this was a TV series and it was the end of the cliffhanger of an episode and it goes boop, and then the credits roll, you'd be like, oh, skip. Next episode, and they didn't talk about it for 3 episodes. You'd be like, "What the fuck? This is absolutely doing me in. Why would they do that?" So it felt a little like that, for sure. But yeah, I do have hope, because, like, as was said, every time there's so many good ideas that within here, a lot of cool stuff that's in here. It's just that the characters either feel like they're pulling from like blank archetypes and not really have their own kind of feeling. Like, everybody's way too noble, I think, for the kind of world that we get in, or at least the characters that we have. We just seem to be sitting with all the noble people within this galaxy, and all of the bad guys and all of the things are the enemy, the others. and I sort of would like to be in the head of more of the bad guys and be sort of rooting for them in some way as well, because they might have some good viewpoints. It seems like there's how they're going to tackle this problem seems to be a bit undefined. And for 3 books in, I would hope to be kind of being able to theorize a bit more.
Yeah, we kind of need a Darth Vader, you know. You kind of need that kind of, you know, where you see his viewpoint a little bit, you know, or at least or at least he talks about his viewpoint a little bit or something like that. And yeah, it's interesting how you pointed that out about the like they're all too noble, they're all too. I mean, it's not even that they're nice about it. They're not like people you want to hang out with or anything like that.
Yeah.
But I see your point there. And I think it's just funny how, like you said, there's so many cool, like a lot of cool stuff thrown at you here and there, and then he goes into this minutia of explanation that it makes no sense for like the story he's trying to convey. There's the line in here about the volumes about physiology of pain, and it's like she knows about nociception, whatever the hell that is, the difference between epicritic and protopathic pain, and presynaptic blocking and neospinal pathway, and prostaglandal promoters and GABA agonist. And it's like, why do I need all that? Like, it's like he's like showing off all the stuff, all the words he could find about the study of pain possible. But the character doesn't need to convey that to us. We don't need to know that, you know? And I was just like, all right, come on, move on from that idea. Get out of there. Go somewhere else.
What? I don't even remember what part of the story that is from. I'm blanking on who's had this huge internal monologue about pain. But
yeah. Grelier and somebody else.
Oh.
The Queen.
The Queen.
Grelier and
Oh,
the Queen.
right.
Yeah.
Right. The part that got me was the detailed conflict resolution algorithm for how they resolve names of stars and planets when two ultra ships meet. That better have payoff later on in the book, where they use the minute details of that conflict resolution algorithm. Because I did not need to know that. Just tell me that we find names and then we resolve, we work them out when we meet. You don't need to tell me the details. I don't need pseudocode for that conflict resolution. But
but he needs to be, you know, it needs the slippery skills of the human. That's what it needs. That's what it said.
I hate to say this, but those sections that you're talking about, Jared, are very Ring-D-esque.
Yeah.
I'm not really trying to compare the two things, but I mean, they're serving the same function as they do in Ring-D.
I curse you for bringing that up, but you're right.
I apologize. I'm sorry for thinking it, because I don't consider these two books on a par at all.
Right.
These two series on a par at all. But the fact that he just feels like he needs to fill 3 pages with this kind of in the moment psychobabble or scientific babble that doesn't really serve the purpose of the character development or anything is very like the stuff that used to happen in Ring-D, where it was like people would have random thoughts and occurrences and ideas that were apropos of nothing.
I definitely don't want to give the impression that we're crapping on this book at all, because it is a fascinating delve. It is a fascinating, space opera, science fiction type thing. That whereas the stuff that we're comparing to Ring-D was not fascinating at all.
No.
So there's a big difference there. It's just,
Yeah,
just
it didn't have the
so
cool shit.
our listeners know.
Yeah. It doesn't have any of the cool shit. Like, if I can think back on Revelation Space and Redemption arc, what I'm thinking about is the cool stuff that happened in both those books. But the in-moment reading of these books isn't always the most compelling from page to page. You certainly get sections of it where it's really propulsive, it's really exciting, but then it's bookended by 2 large sections that are less so.
Yeah.
So what about the Hela thread? Is that how we're saying the planet's name? Hela? In
Hella good. Yeah, hella good. Yeah.
hella good. All right.
Yeah.
And while we're on the subject of names, Ararat is, how do you say it? Ararat?
Ararat. Yeah.
Ararat.
Yeah.
Ararat.
The name of the juggler planet now, apparently. And okay, yeah, sorry. Before we get into the nitty-gritties of the other chapters, I wanted to ask about the woman with the butterflies around her and the man who was with her. Any clues or thoughts about who she might be? No? You think someone brand new, or do you think it's someone we might have seen before?
Where was that?
The prologue.
Oh. Wow.
And she was, I don't even know where she was. Was she on Ararat, or was she?
I mean, there aren't that many female characters, right? So
was it not Galliana?
I mean, Galliana seems the obvious one, but it also could be the woman. God, what's her name? Mademoiselle.
Yeah.
It could possibly be her because, again, there's a mystery about her origins and sort of whether she's dead, not dead at the moment, But Galliana's the obvious one. It could even be Curry. I mean, Curry has went disappearing here and seems to be a prominent kind of figure within this whole debate. I'm less likely to be Curry than anybody else, but those are the kind of the 3 main people that if it is somebody that we know, it's going to be one of the 3 of those people.
Got it. Yeah, makes sense. Curry and what's the guy's name whose name starts with R?
Yep.
Ramanos.
Yep.
Say that again.
No, she didn't go with. It wasn't Remontoire she went with. It was the other guy, wasn't it? Remontoire is the Clavian's friend, isn't he? He's there.
Yeah.
Remontoire, Curry, and the other guy. I think all 3 of them went to Hades. No.
Oh, did they? The 3 of them go to Hades?
Yeah.
Maybe they did.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. They took Volyova's ship. No, Volyova's ship came here.
The Soldier for Infinity went to the
okay.
Went to the planet. Yeah.
Okay. Excuse me. Yeah. So that prologue is interesting. I'm gonna keep coming back to that to see who she might be and what's up with the butterflies.
It does bring a good point, though. I mean, this book needs a good prologue. It needs an interesting prologue. Again, if being so long, 800 pages, needs a lot of story to tell, you need the mystery of a prologue and that it sort of all ties together.
Sure.
In some way, you're looking for a mythos and a mythology that kind of goes, oh, there's a bigger thing at play here, and you can keep on referring back to the prologue. It's probably one of those things that I'll probably have to go back and reread as we get through certain sections of the book.
Yeah, good thing it's so short.
How it applies. And for me, it'd be interesting to know when he was writing this, whether you write a prologue like that at the start, or whether you wait till you get to the end and then write the prologue.
Go back, yeah.
Interesting. That is a good question.
That would be my question for Alastair Reynolds if I could ask him one question.
One question. Maybe he'll do an AMA on Reddit or something. We can post that.
Maybe.
But
go. Yeah.
Gig crash. So okay, onwards to Hela, where this girl whose name I've forgotten is leaving home because she wants to find out what happened to her brother. I'm watching the first season of The Magicians, and that sounds familiar, but
that's a little tropey, but I didn't have a problem with that. But
no, I didn't. I was like, where did I hear that? Like, that sounds recent and not last week. Yeah. It's because I've been watching that show the last couple of days. But what is her name? Why can't I remember it?
Oh, I don't remember.
Names in this book are hard.
Is that on Ararat? No, that's not on
No,
Ararat.
that's
It's
Hela.
on Hela,
It's in Hela.
Yeah.
not on Piscium.
No.
No.
Morena?
No,
Morena?
that's the
No.
girlfriend.
That's
that's
the
with
girl.
Kate.
That's on this ship.
That's with
Rashmika. How could I forget? It's an Indian
Rashmika.
name.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Rashmika, which is an interesting choice of Indian name to put in.
I never actually made the connection that was in Disney. I might sort of had it as Slovakian, sort of Eastern Europe.
Interesting. Maybe there's a South Indian actress called Rashmika Mandana. I think that's her last name.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah, Mandana. So definitely Indians use that name. But so anyway, so she's leaving home. So this planet is apparently really cold, and we've got a bridge. Yes. Oh, nice. That I was trying to remember where I saw that bridge. So that's what Quaish sees on the planet. And apparently these guys follow a religion called Quaishianism or something, which church her brother went to work for, it seems like, and potentially being severely indoctrinated by.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah, I found that interesting. I found that storyline interesting because, yeah, I've read a lot about indoctrination, but into religions. So I found that interesting, and I'm rooting for her. I want to see where that goes and see how she what she runs into and how she overcomes her obstacles and stuff like that. That's a pretty interesting storyline, I thought.
And we don't she's still traveling when we leave her at the end of these chapters, right? She's still in that little walker thing with that family with the random mean boy.
What was it? Was it a walker? Or was it? I thought it was like a train or something, but I'm not.
I thought it was I have no idea why I have this image in my head, but it's like a conical shape with legs that's just walking swiftly, like insect-like. I'm sure that doesn't match any description that's in the book, but that's what I've got in my head.
That's what you've seen, yeah.
That's what I see. That's great.
I love when that happens in books that you're like, this was not on the page, but I can't not see it like this.
Yeah, because of the way that how I guess bumpy the ride was described as. Like, it's not wheels particularly, maybe, but it's like if something was walking, then so anyway, that's the image I have in my head. But the family, any thoughts on the family other than the kid was mean for mean's sake and mean? I didn't like him at all.
Yeah, I was wondering if she was going to have to slap his paws off of her, but it didn't go that far. So
yeah,
we'll see. I mean, we just really got introduced to him, and that's kind of the end of it there. So, like I said, I think that's a pretty interesting storyline.
Yeah.
I hope it's more involved as we get along, and that's like I'm hoping we don't like that's the last we hear of her, and then we get back to her with 50 pages left or something like that.
Yeah.
That would suck. But so I'm hoping we get that more developed.
Yeah. I guess the other thing that this tells us is that Quaish's mission might have been successful with regards to the alien bridge, because don't they mention a bridge too in the Hela thread that the caravanners travel to? Perhaps I forget what the specifics were with regards to that bridge, but
it also could be red herrings. I mean, there are more than two bridges in the galaxy, I'm sure.
Possibly.
What?
But the as soon as you see like words in the dream word association, you go, yes, I know what they're talking about, and then it's kind of
that's fair.
Evolves a little bit. Yeah.
It's the same planet though.
Yeah.
Right.
Again, this history of Hela, and again, is that where nostalgia for infinity is? Like, again, this question of actually where is this planet, this unnamed planet that they've got to, and how does it link to the previous timeline? Is it Hela? Is it not? Because obviously there was signs of civilization on the planet that Clavian and all arrived on. Again, who was it?
Mm.
As it turns out, it could be multiple,
Oh,
civilizations, and again, very reminiscent of Children of Time as a series.
Oh yeah, yeah. Huh.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Oh, okay. So, Rashmika's storyline is in the future compared to. All right, I'm getting it. It's
Mhm.
starting to come together now.
So is it farther in the future than the stuff on Ararat? I forget. Or is it similar time? I think Ararat is also
Well,
behind. Yeah.
according to the numbers, it
Yeah.
is. It's like
Yeah, it
100
is.
years. Well, 50 more years ahead of
Mm,
Ararat.
Okay.
right.
So it's like
Yeah,
50,
there's 50 years gap between Clivian and Morwenna, and
And
yeah.
Rashmik, yeah.
Yeah, that's
50,
interesting.
50, 50. I feel like that the timelines were similar in Revelation space, but
Yeah.
this is fun.
And
I
to
like
be
the
fair, I
time
didn't realize, like I said, I didn't realize until the very end, but I did get the sense that these were not the same timelines, even from reading it. So I think there
yeah.
was obviously something communicated within that,
Yeah.
within the words, etc., that kind of gave off that idea, and it made me check the dates, and I went, actually, yes,
Yeah.
there's a time gap between these.
I think I started paying attention to it when I saw the Quasian religion thing. I'm like, same name. What's going on? That's probably when my eyes started to focus on the dates. But
But it is an interesting part of reading, actually, Varsha, when we've got new characters being given, you're not really focusing on details because you haven't got a grounding for where the characters are,
Yeah.
who the characters are, etc. And it's only when you start to get that you do start to kind of seek out the details and seek out the connections, because at the
Right.
start they're two very disparate storylines that don't seem to have any link, or that you're not meant to, and so details like that don't matter. And it's interesting that we both had that same kind of feeling. Of like starting to look for details once we got more familiar with it.
Well, I definitely needed this talk in order to put all that together. And I see that chapter 8 does start with Rashmika, so
that's interesting.
That's a good sign, because chapter 7 was boring as hell.
It's funny you'd said that, and I read chapter 7 and went, oh, fine, like maybe, but I had left just chapter 7 to start by itself, and I think that actually says an awful lot about you. If you're reading at the end of a section that you were reading and put that on the end, it feels like it drags. Whereas
it was 7 pages of Case describing his approach to a planet, and I was just like,
which ironically he ended with the idea that he was going to hide behind another planet, or hide behind the moon, wasn't it?
Hide them behind Heldor, or whatever that means.
Heldor, which I think was the moon.
That's the gas giant, I thought, and he's
going
to the moon.
The gas giant? Oh, okay. Well, it was another galactic body, certainly.
Yeah. So this is the same gas giant that keeps disappearing, right? So,
I mean,
I think it is
possibly, yeah.
I think it is, because that's so. First, Jasmina's ship detected it, and then Quasia's ship detected it when they were closer to this gas giant. So, and assuming like they're not looking at a star system elsewhere, I think that makes sense that it's this one. So I have a theory. That's not a useful theory, but I have a theory. So you know that long bit we got about in the chapter that Jared hates, about why about how the moon is almost tidally locked but not quite. I think maybe the not quite is because of the frequent disappearances of the gas giant. Maybe they will do some math to get there, to figure it out. I don't know. But even if that's true, I don't know what we'll do with that information. It's not particularly useful, but just something I thought of. But since we're on the subject, what do you guys think is going on with the disappearance of the gas giant? Like, one thing we know is that when you mess with inertia and space-time, or the other quantum thing that apparently the what is our Clavain's group called again? Not ultras.
So there's spiders and the
conjoiners.
Demarcus. Conjoiners. Demarcus are the other guys. That's right.
Yeah. So conjoiners, the quantum tech that they were messing with, is apparently can like go way back in time and like disappear people, right? So maybe a gas giant, maybe there's some like local effects like that going on nearby that is having impact on the gas giant somehow. Perhaps the bridge is some space-time or inertial modification business that's having effects on the gas giant. But I think that this might be pointing to inhibitor or inhibitor-like tech in the vicinity.
Interesting. Well, I'll throw another one in there since we're in the realm of science fiction. That we were in parallel universes and timelines and stuff, so it's sort of winking in and out of time in some way, because we've had this idea of messages being passed backwards and forwards through time as well.
Yes.
And again, I would be disappointed if that didn't reappear at some stage within this this book. That we didn't have that kind of idea, and the fact that that gas giant existed at some space and time, but actually, if time is fluid and all of that kind of stuff, that would be quite cool. Again, I'm always reaching for the big ideas, the cool big ideas in here, and I it's one thing I sort of expect out of this book, if nothing else, is like more big idea, cool big ideas.
Yeah, that sounds cool. I like that. Yeah, and this book did introduce the idea, or the series introduced the idea of parallel universes. So I'd be curious to see where we go with that. If they leak into each other, or if you can only pass messages. I think they may have explained that, but I forget. Cool.
But yeah, interesting stuff all around. But not an awful lot happened in these first 100 pages. I think that's fair to say. There's not an awful lot. There's a lot of speculation and not a lot to grab onto.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about what's happening on Ararat, I guess. Apparently a spaceship landed and they need to figure out who the heck it was. It is possible that it's the same people from the prologue, but the prologue also had something about the ring or something not being prevented from having its bits falling into the ocean, which I think is the same ocean that these guys are near, right? So yeah, once again, it's like a lot of setup that we don't have a lot of information on, but curious to see where it goes.
But I do think it's interesting that, again, they're in the past, but a lot of the actions and things that you're seeing would be explained by what's happening 50 years in the future, if it's the same place. You know, obviously, we have also had the idea that this was also inhabited beforehand. So, I mean, the things are very fluid in that way. But it'd be quite cool if the civilization that they see now was themselves, the one that they built themselves before they left in some way, in some weird way. Again, this idea of time being sort of fluid in this world, I think it's like it's got to resonate in something.
Yeah.
Further down the line.
Are they on the juggler planet? Like, is it a planet proper, or is it a
again?
moon?
We don't know. We don't know.
No.
I'm totally speculating that Hela is the same planet, and again, that's just because of the way it's written. I mean, there's nothing actually to suggest that whatsoever.
Interesting. And Hela's frozen, right? So it could be that all of this water froze eventually,
and then created the swamp further down the line. Yeah, absolutely.
Interesting. Yeah, that's an interesting speculation. We'll see.
I mean, as normal, I fully expect none of my speculation to ever reach fruition, but that's the fun.
Yeah,
we'll see. We'll keep track. I think so far you are 1 to 900 or something.
Yeah, something like that. And the worst part is I can't remember what the one was, but
cool. Shall we move on to the short story, or do we have more to discuss here?
The only other thing I would like to discuss actually is Morwenna and the blinding technology. This kind of relationship and how they're using technology for her and the other guy. I can never remember his name.
Quish.
Quish. That's it. I keep on saying Agrash is what my brain's saying, but it's Quish. Yeah.
So you don't see his name and immediately think the like quiche, is that how you say it? The egg dish?
Oh yeah. No, I don't.
And
I got one of those.
That's gonna. I'm just gonna call him Quiche from now on. That's all that's gonna happen from that conversation. Quiche. So the fact that she's blinded and she's sort of locked in this pod, and the only way they can communicate is kind of through auditory. But this is her lifeline to the world. I mean, her relationship to Grace, sorry, God damn it, Grace. The fact is, even though they're good, that at the moment we're leaving them, they're going to go out of contact for a couple of hours, and she's worried that she'll never see or hear from him again. I actually find that oddly powerful. In some ways, this kind of sense of loneliness. I mean, they're out in space in this kind of solo mission by themselves, but they are connected, and yet she is going to go into a position where she's kind of going to go on the dark side of this gas giant moon, whatever it is, at that stage, and she will be cut off from all of her auditory senses at the moment. Maybe my hyper empathy was ticked up, just turned it up to 11 a bit too much. Kind of going, there is something very scary and impactful about that.
No, you're very right. That is probably one of the scariest situations you could imagine yourself in, where you're just, because she can't see anything. She's in blackness.
That's right,
and she can't feel anything as far as we can tell. And only being able to hear his voice, and then that disappears. So you have a complete and utter, what do you call those chambers?
The isolation chamber,
sensory deprivation
tank.
But imagine not volunteering for that and then having it forced on you for who knows how long. That could drive a person mad. And
absolutely.
And so that's scary right there. That's very scary. And then then him just saying, "Caution's my middle name," as he leaves. I was like, okay, that's a little lame, dude. But yeah. And then and then he goes. Then he speculates on that as he's traveling towards the planet there by himself, and he's he's talking about how he to feel oneself so tiny and fragile and spiritually crushing and stuff like that, and how that that where it just ants or dust, and there's no meaningful sin or good, which that was contrasted with him putting on a little bravado face for his friend in the sensory deprivation chamber. But it was I don't know, it was on a nose a bit, when he did that. And it was right after that we got into chapter 7, and we started getting really boring. So but
it felt interesting all the same. And I'm hopeful for the next 100 or so pages, but I still realize that it's quite early, in the arc of the story.
Yeah.
But yeah, cool.
Sorry, I was muted. Yes, the lake is full of artificial things.
Yes,
it was.
So this is a story that blindsides you a little bit, because it seems to be about what appears to be a reality/dream sequence at the start. So a woman kind of runs into an old lover and has a conversation with him. Then gets woken up, and it appears, or it's revealed, that this is part of some sort of medical technology where people can pull from their own memories and their own descriptions of people and go back and deal with some sort of unresolved trauma from their past. And specifically, we are in the guise of this woman that's trying to make peace with a boyfriend who went to fight in the Vietnam War and never came home, essentially. And as we often say, science fiction is about today rather than about the future in a lot of ways. So it's kind of using the guise of the kind of the grief of those that left behind, and in the case of this story, actually about the grief of the things that she did before he left, and her actions before he went away and to the war, and sort of her anger at him in the war. And there is also, I'm sure we'll touch on it, some interesting that this is written by a woman, by the way, Karen Joy Fowler. There's some discussion of the roles of males and females in that sort of society, which I thought was quite interesting, especially for the time, etc. So yeah, an interesting story. In fact, I liked quite a lot.
Yeah, and it's not just the grief, but the guilt.
Yeah, the guilt
that comes along with that grief, and the guilt. Survivor's guilt is part of that, and but also the guilt of what your actions are after that, because it's really interesting how it's relayed through her memory. So all the actions that she counters in the I guess virtual reality world that she was placed in are her grief and guilt coming forth and saying these things, even though there was like short sections where it seemed like something was wrong with the program or something like that, and you thought maybe that this could possibly be evolving into something else. But I liked how she played with that. She played with the reader in that way to make it interesting in certain points. And it was a nice story all told. It was whole and powerful, I think.
Yeah.
And I like the small element of uncertainty where she keeps wondering whether what she's seeing is real somehow.
Yeah.
It's from her head, but she's also seeing this person as she never had before. So is she making it up? And then she saw he was too old the first time, and then she went back in for a younger person, and the accusations kept getting worse. She didn't find the redemption she wanted from that, which I wonder what that speaks to, like the inability to heal, or being able to even though she's able to confront what she's struggling with, she's still unable to forgive herself somehow. It was interesting. It's interesting to grapple with what it is that's going on in her head.
Yeah, I think it sort of speaks to how, if this were possible, this kind of idea, this sort of, it's almost like a regression hypnosis in some ways, but because it's not actually the person that you're resolving it with, you're resolving it with yourself. It just sort of started to spiral out of control for her, in some ways. The more that she kind of tried to fight, she was seeking validation from a being that wasn't there, but it was seeking validation with herself. And this kind of cycle that she got herself in her own psyche of creating new problems or creating more conflict because of her kind of unresolved guilt from this period, to the point that she was willing to die for it, rather than, that was sort of the result. Like, she had a husband and a child, and she had a life after this, but her guilt that she held on for, either cheating on him beforehand or the fact that she left things unsaid before he went, just ate at her to the point that she really couldn't go on with her life, and was more than happy just kind of exist in this space of, right, I there's no point living anymore, which I think is a really interesting kind of psychological kind of thought to have, in that sometimes things are just best left as they are. Things happen in life and you just have to deal with them, because she couldn't, and it didn't seem to me in the story that she could ever make sense of the fact that it was herself she was having the conversation with, rather than this entity that she called Daniel. She kind of was personifying that, her own psyche, as another person.
Yeah, and I think the author is voicing something about the especially the time it was written in the 80s, about the biases that people had towards therapy. People go into therapy expecting to figure out the truth, whatever that means. And in here, they're saying, well, therapy's not really concerned with the truth. They're concerned, it's more about adjustment, and it's more about, unchangeable situations and adjusting yourself. And so it's not changing truths or not dealing with truths. And so I think that's something that the author was trying to convey through this science fictional apparatus.
I think the other thing to say about it, obviously, given that it's written in the 80s, there have been a lot of emergent talk about PTSD from the war itself, but not about the PTSD for those that were left behind, and
Right.
actually how that kind of came through in this story, and so much like that's their post traumatic syndrome, stress disorder, whatever, has just something she can never let go, and has carried her whole life and is haunted by it, even though she's made adjustments in her life to kind of live some sort of life. It's very sad and sort of affecting in how it's told and portrayed in that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good story.
Yeah,
Anything
good
else
story,
before
bro.
we wrap up? Good story, bro.
Yeah. No, another good short story this week. And the other thing to point out, I can sort of see the end of this book, even though it's at the end of this book. Sorry, these short stories, even though it's like a year away.
Yeah. Yeah. It's coming, isn't it? So my Kindle, the reading estimate, it's down to 16 hours only. So I don't know where it
Wow.
started, but 16 hours. That's a 300-page book. So, well, 400 pages.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't remember. But
And the other thing to point out actually about it as well, we've been through a period where there's been lots of authors that we recognized, a lot of very
Yeah.
famous authors in the short stories. We're going to go into a stage now where there's only a handful of authors that I would recognize, which I think is interesting again, because again, the stories will become more relevant for the times that we've lived in.
Yeah.
Facing issues that we've lived in, but actually through the eyes of people that are not famed maybe the same way.
Right.
And I also feel like there was sort of a up and down curve, like depending on what time period we're reading, of how much we tend to like the stories on average. I feel like just before we started reading these authors that we recognize, and most of them have largely been successful.
Yeah.
The period just before that, I feel like there's a little bit of, what am I reading? What does this mean? But we're back. So I'd be curious to see how the stories from like way closer to our time resonate with us.
That's all right. You can just blame Jeff and Anne Vandermeer for your
That's true.
up and down.
Yeah.
They picked them.
I should have picked better stories.
What do those guys know?
Yeah. I only edited like 7 anthologies like this, but what do they know? They should listen to me. So we'll be back next week with The Unmistakable Smell of Wood Violets. I cannot get over that name. But and the next 9 chapters of Absolution Gap. Good. I got through this episode successfully without calling it the redemption arc by accident. I don't know. This has been redemption arc in my head this whole time. So, Absolution Gap and the Violet story. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you soon. Bye.